A rabbi by the name of Rabbi Samson of Hirsch, who was a 19th century German Jew. So we generally follow his teachings.
Why did you follow his teachings?
He had a certain philosophy that he used.
When did he die, this man?
1890 something.
Right. And so he's German?
Yeah. So we had. He fought a big battle against the Jewish Enlightenment, the Reform movement, and saved the religious life of the Jews in Germany.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're part of that?
Yes. There's very few of us today.
Okay. All right. And you've done the training, right? You've done some of the training of how to be a rabbi and all these kind of things, or you're in training now?
No. To become a rabbi, you need a lot more knowledge than I do.
Right. You're being humble, right? I'm joking. I'm sure it's true. Right. Let's go to Isaiah 42.
Yeah.
And let's read it out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that the Torah?
This is the Tanakh.
Before we get to Isaiah 42,
yes,
I want to give you another verse to think about first. Okay.
Yes.
I want you to go to Deuteronomy
chapter
18, but not verse 18.
Verse 15?
No, verse 21. Let's go to verse 21. I want you to go to Deuteronomy 18:21, okay? And I want you to read it out for me because this one's an interesting one. I found this one quite interesting myself.
Sure.
Huh? What are you reading from? What is this translation?
This is the JPS translation.
So tell us what that is.
The JPS is the Jewish Publication Society. It's just a translation from the Hebrew.
How well accepted is this within your circles?
Practically speaking, we don't have like a translation which we say this is a very good translation. We usually only read from the Hebrew and translate. We'll use it for like a difficult word. We'll use the English. So like a less common word, we might go to the English to see, what does that mean? Or maybe if the commentary is not so easy to understand.
Right. Let's go to Deuteronomy 18:21.
What's the debate about?
I'll speak to you later. I'm just going to
What's the debate? What are you
We're just talking about prophecies about the Prophet Muhammad in the Old Testament.
You're Muslim, right?
Huh?
You're Muslim?
I'm Muslim, yes.
Verse 21. It says, and should you ask yourselves, how can we know that the oracle was not spoken by the Lord?
Keep going.
Verse 22. Asher yadaber hanovi b'shem Adonai v'lo yichye hadovar v'lo yovo hu hadovar asher lo diberu Adonai v'zodon diberu hanovi lo sogu mimenu. If the prophet speaks in the name of the Lord and the oracle does not come true, that oracle was not spoken by the Lord. The prophet has uttered it presumptuously. Do not stand in dread of him.
This is something I think we need to focus on a little bit before we continue.
Yeah, sure.
Now, what I understand from these verses, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's giving us a criterion for how do we establish or how do we know whether there's a true prophet or a false prophet.
That is true.
And it's saying that if that prophet makes predictions, this is referred to as oracle here, makes predictions of the future, and they come to be true, they materialize, then that is an indication that they are true prophets.
It does not actually say that. What it does say, however,
I'm paraphrasing, go ahead.
What it does say is that if a prophet, if the oracle does not come true, then he is not a true prophet.
Yeah, so
it does not say, however, that if it does come true, that means that he is a true prophet.
No, but that is the inferred, because if you look,
not necessarily.
No, it can be, because let me tell you why, right?
Sure.
If I say, in this case, if it's saying it does not come true, then this disqualifies them from prophethood, right? Are you with me?
Yeah, it's the tissue.
It disqualifies them from prophethood.
Yeah.
If they say that something's going to happen and it doesn't come true. So they're not disqualified from prophethood if they say something's going to come true and it does come true, correct?
They're not disqualified. Yeah, right. That does not
All right.
mean disqualified.
Yeah. Now we have to look at the figure of Muhammad.
Right.
Because the first thing I want to present to you is the following, He made a series of prophecies.
Yes.
Okay? I mean, the Quran makes a series of prophecies.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Are you aware of those prophecies?
No, I'm not.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to present to you some of those prophecies in the Quran and in the Hadith, and I want you to react to those things, okay?
Sure.
All right, so
before you do so, will I make an extra point that is important to the discussion?
Yes.
Which is that there are other conditions that have been laid down in Deuteronomy, chapters 13 and 18.
Let's read them just, go ahead. Go ahead.
About the issue of what is a false prophet. So if we look to chapter 13,
yes,
we start from verse 2.
Yes.
It says as follows: If there appears, I'll read in Hebrew.
No, just read it in English for now.
Right. If there appears among you a prophet or a dream diviner, and he gives you a sign or a portent, saying, "Let us follow and worship another god, whom you have not experienced,"
yes,
even if the sign or portent that he named so to you comes true, do not heed the words of that prophet or that dream diviner, for the Lord your God is testing you to see whether you really love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul.
Right. So we've got another condition,
yes,
which is that it must be that prophet must call to the worship of one God.
No, it doesn't say of one God. It says
okay,
the gods that you have experienced.
And are the gods that the Jewish people experience more than one?
No.
So it's one God, right?
Yes, it is one God.
Great. So
the God that we experienced at Sinai.
Okay, fine. But that God we're talking about is the one God of Moses, right?
Yes, indeed.
Correct. So if that prophet comes and calls to a God other than the God of Moses, then he's disqualified.
Indeed.
So we have two aspects of disqualification. One is that if this prophet calls to a God other than the God of Moses, then he's disqualified. Two is if he makes prophecies which don't materialize, then he's disqualified,
yes,
correct? All right, is there any other conditions that you know of?
Let's have a look. So there's also an inference here. If we continue in chapter 13 and go to verse 6, it says, As for that prophet or dream diviner, he shall be put to death. Why? For he urged disloyalty to the Lord your God, who freed you from the land of Egypt and redeemed you from the house of bondage, to make you stray from the path that the Lord your God commanded you to follow. Thus you will sweep out evil from your midst. So we can imply from this that another thing that a false prophet does is he urges disloyalty to the Lord your God.
Excellent. So if the opposite, then if he urges loyalty to the God of Moses, then he is not disqualified, correct?
Right. Urging loyalty does not disqualify you.
Yes.
Rather, urging disloyalty
disqualifies
you.
Excellent. Now, with this, we can both agree there are many claimants to prophecy that have come in history after Moses that will be instantly disqualified, correct?
Yes.
Like, for example, Guru Nanak.
Yes.
Would you accept he's disqualified?
Indeed.
Let's say
Siddhartha Gautama, disqualified.
Sorry? Yes, okay. And so on.
Joseph Smith,
disqualified. Are you with me?
Yeah,
Paul disqualified.
Exactly.
Me and you are on the same page right now, aren't we? Now
Jesus,
we have to go.
Disqualified.
No, we wouldn't say this because Jesus, according to the Pauline understanding, is disqualified. But Jesus, according to the Islamic understanding, is not. And that's why we have to go back to this question. The question is, did the Prophet Muhammad call to the God of Moses, to worshipping the God of Moses? Yes or no?
Well, that's what we're going to have to see. Does he call to you?
Well, I mean, you tell me. You've read the Quran, right?
I've read part of it, not so much.
All right. So this is extremely explicitly clear in the Quran that is the case. In fact, the whole story of Moses is narrated in many different parts of the Quran, 70 in fact. His name is mentioned 70 times, Moses, Musa.
Yes, I've heard about that.
Right, so he's mentioned, and in fact, a very similar narrative, although the particulars are different,
yes,
are mentioned, okay?
Like the number of daughters by the well in Midian.
These are details that don't relate to our criterion of disqualification.
Just giving an example of a difference.
Yeah, of course. But what I'm saying, the things that relate to our criterion of disqualification are not met with the Prophet Muhammad, correct? And with the Quran.
That particular thing, no.
Right. So,
however, in terms of disloyalty, that could be something that could possibly be a matter of contention.
Tell me how.
For example, God commanded the Jewish people to observe the Shabbos, right, the Sabbath.
Yes.
Part of that observance is we're not allowed to fast on the Sabbath because, as it says in Isaiah, the Sabbath is to be an enjoyment, right? And the issue would be if a Jew were to accept the Quran, right, to accept Muhammad, if that is true, then according to that law, he will have to fast Ramadan. And if he has to fast Ramadan, that will not suddenly disappear for Shabbos. Shabbos will have to, have to fast on. That is
right now,
disloyal to God.
Let me tell you something. What you're doing now is you're dictating to God what rules should apply when they should apply.
I'm not dictating.
No, because let me ask you a question. If in the second coming of the Messiah, or the coming of the Messiah, sorry, that you believe in, right? You believe the Messiah will come.
Yes, the Messiah will come.
You believe that?
Yes.
You believe it will be a second coming, you believe it will be the first coming.
Indeed.
But that's something else. But if the Messiah, if you're assured that that Messiah is from God,
yes,
and he tells you of something which you might not have seen in the biblical texts, right? Would you reject him?
Well, if he was somebody who is telling us things that contradict that what came before him, then we would not accept him.
No,
because he would not be the Messiah. If he's coming to us and telling us things we didn't know before,
where does it say in the Old Testament that every single law cannot be abrogated?
I'll get this.
Because let me ask you a question before you get there. Let me ask you a question. Look at me. Abraham, you have a story. We have a story. It's the same story. In the Quran, it's narrated, that Abraham said to his son, "Inni ra'aytu fil manam, inni adhbahuka, fandur madha tara." He said to his son, "I saw in my dream that I was meant to slaughter you. So tell me what to do." He said, "Oh my father, if'al ma tu'mar. Do whatever you have been commanded to do." Okay. Now you believe in this story. I believe in this story. Correct?
Yes.
What did God tell Abraham to do?
To offer him up as an elevation offering.
Okay, and did he do that?
He offered him, he was not accepted.
No. Did he end up slaughtering his son?
He wasn't commanded to slaughter his son.
What was he commanded to do?
Offer him up as an elevation offering.
Did he do it?
Yes, he did.
And he offered him, he slaughtered him?
No, he did not slaughter
So, all right,
him, he offered him.
Okay, but then what happened?
Then the angel came and told him, don't slaughter him.
Oh, great. Don't slaughter him. You just said it. Excellent. Hold on.
Slaughter him.
Listen.
He was never told to slaughter.
What's your name?
Josh.
Josh. Abraham, what was in his mind that he was meant to, what do you think?
Abraham thought that he was supposed to slaughter the son.
Right, excellent.
He misunderstood.
No. Abraham thought that he was meant to slaughter the son.
Yes.
Then he was told that don't slaughter the son.
Yes.
In fact, take the sacrificial animal instead, or whatever it is, yeah?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
We believe in this, you believe in this.
Yes.
All right. So the point is that you have two commands that the prophet Abraham, or we don't believe it's, the Old Testament doesn't say he's a prophet from what I remember.
It doesn't say calling him a prophet.
Yeah.
However, the fact that God speaks to him, gives him prophecies,
no problem,
makes him a prophet.
No, I'm not saying he isn't. We believe he is. We believe he
Yes.
is. But I'm just trying to be specific here.
Jolly good.
Now, when he offered the ram, if he were to have an attitude similar to that you have, he would say, "No, I will not do what the angel said, because I have already been commanded what? I have already been commanded to do X, and I'm going to slaughter the son."
Right.
But so what I'm saying is, I asked you a question. When the Messiah comes back, and if he tells you something which is, in your understanding, extra Talmudic or extra biblical, something which you haven't seen before, or you may not understand, you said you won't follow him. What I'm saying is, this is the problem exactly. Because if Abraham had the same attitude as you, he would be among those who reject God. But he didn't. He followed the angel. So the idea that you're hung up on the Sabbath, but what I'm saying is, God is within his right to give commandments and injunctions. It doesn't contradict the majesty of God to give commands and injunctions in one place and time which differ from commands and injunctions from another place and time. So what you're describing as disloyalty is in fact ironically itself disloyalty. Because if this was disloyalty, then the angel would have been disloyal and Abraham would have been disloyal.
It's not though. The reason is twofold, because there's two things to unpack here. First of all, with regards to Abraham was told, offer him up, right? The word Hebrew is ha'alehu la'olah, right? Offer him up as an elevation offering. And the angel does not then tell him, don't offer him up as an elevation offering. He tells him, don't slaughter. At this point, Abraham will now understand correctly that when he was told, offer him up, that does not mean to slaughter. Now he is being clarified by the angel to not slaughter. He originally thought he was supposed to slaughter. The angel has now clarified to him, no, don't slaughter. don't slaughter.
Abraham received the commandment
Yes.
from God. He
Yes.
understood it in a certain way.
And then he was
And
told
then he
a
was
different understanding of that.
then he was given clarification according
Yes.
to what you've said from the angel.
Yes.
But what makes him, he's a prophet. What makes him take the angel as an authority that gives him information about revelation?
Because as a prophet, having a revelation with an angel of God, he's going to know what the angel of God is telling him is the original intention
Great.
of God.
Now this is exactly the point
is
we are
going
making.
to be the actual.
We are saying the angel
if
of...
I'm not a prophet. If
I know you're not.
Look,
Yeah,
if the Messiah comes, like if a man comes, because we believe the Messiah is going to be a man. If a man comes
Yes.
and says, let's say, now you're allowed to eat camels, right? Right? Then I'll say, no, we're not. God said we're not allowed to eat camels. He specifically said to not eat camels.
Yeah. Well, what if he says, well, you've understood it. You've understood it incorrectly, because what God really meant is that you're not allowed to eat camels for this time period at this time, and that I've been given the authority from the angel, or I've been given authority from God, and you haven't. So if you look, I want you to understand something. If Abraham had your attitude, he would not have followed the commandment not to slaughter his son.
That's the
Because-
difference.
because-
He's a prophet, and he knows an
Great.
angel is talking to him.
Beautiful.
I'm not a prophet.
Excellent. So a prophet can make those concessions.
A prophet can make that concession.
Excellent.
Because he's had a revelation from an angel.
Excellent. Perfect. You see what you
But
just said there?
I, as another person,
Great.
Like if Abraham had told that to somebody else.
Look. What you just
right?
said there is all I need to hear. You said a
of course it is.
Oh wait, yes, it is. You said a prophet can make that concession because he's been given revelation from the angel.
But if he tells that to somebody
and
else,
it would not be disloyalty if that is the case, right?
that would be disloyalty.
It wouldn't be, no. Excellent. So this is what we're saying. Remember, the Islamic narrative. Listen, what's your name again, bro?
Josh.
Josh. Sorry, I'm sorry. Josh, what you've just said there is the end of this particular segment, because that's all I needed to hear.
Of course.
I think we have solved and ironed out this point now, because the Islamic claim is this: the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we believe that he came, okay, after Moses, after Jesus, and he was given revelation from the angel.
Right.
And we believe that this revelation provided clarification, and it also provided filtration. Listen, for what was in the previous dispensations, because the idea is that not everything in this book was preserved. And look, we don't need to go into this discussion. But the idea is not everything in this book was preserved.
37 Quran.
This.
Not been preserved.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Not everything is.
37 Quran.
Yeah, I thought it was 51.
Sorry,
Anyway.
There are holes in the
Sorry,
narrative.
mate. Yo. We're having a good conversation here. Can you take your shit and go somewhere else?
Yeah, okay. So, do you see the point?
I watched your thing, man.
Pardon?
I watched your thing with Yasser. That was very silly of you. Asking that question.
Maybe you're right about that. You know?
I watched it, I thought, what are you doing? You're giving a lot of fire to the guys. If he doesn't give you an answer, there's going to be a lot of problems.
Listen, this is aside the point. Let's stick with the subject that matter, all right?
Can we listen,
Now,
please?
we've said the 2 points. We'll go back to it. You mentioned 3. You mentioned that he has to call to the God of Moses. Then you mentioned that he can't be disloyal to God.
Yes.
And that if he is getting revelation from an angel, this is not seen as disloyalty. We talked about that.
That's not what okay, let me clarify. When I say talking to an angel is not disloyalty, what I'm talking about is why should I believe, right, that you are a true prophet or a false prophet? If you say an angel told me that the way you've always understood something is wrong, right? I don't have necessarily a reason to believe that you're a true prophet. But if you're told from an angel that something you've understood something wrong, right? Then you absolutely should be listening to what the angel tells you.
All right,
because
excellent.
you know the angel of God.
Right.
But I don't know that you've spoken to the angel of God.
No. That's why we're looking at the other criterion. So the other criteria says that if he speaks of an oracle, prediction of the future.
But before we get to that,
yes,
because I did say it was twofold.
Right.
I gave one.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
The other one about
the second thing about
yes,
about
the God of
about
Moses.
the Sabbath.
The Sabbath we've already spoken
No,
about.
because I was about to bring you a verse that I'd end up bringing.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, go ahead.
So in Exodus chapter 34, I think. Let's get it up. Hold on.
By the way, can I just say something, Josh, before you get the verse?
Yes.
That everything in the Bible, for us, is not evidentiary. Okay,
That's true.
I want you to know that, because what it is that it's
You
been
believe it's been corrupted?
it's established. Not I believe. Sorry,
Muslims.
it has been no. It has been established.
By Muslims.
No, actually, no. It has been established beyond reasonable doubt that the book that you're holding in your hand, okay, has been omitted. Things have been omitted from it.
Established by who?
By who?
By whom? By a consensus of text critics.
By who?
Really?
For-
Who?
Oh.
Welthausen?
Listen,
Just
listen.
a question. Just
Let
a
me-
question.
let me-
Sorry, sorry, mate. Just one
yeah,
question. please.
Yeah. Fine.
If I take this book from here and I go and get the same book, your Torah, in South Africa or in
Yes,
America,
yes.
they'll be different.
No, they won't.
They will.
No, they won't. Go and
Josh,
find out.
let me
and
ask you a
come back and
question.
tell me.
Look at me, Josh. Look at
It's
me.
not a different language.
Look at me, Josh.
It's not a different language.
How do they?
It hasn't been changed.
You're a clever man, yeah?
Yes.
You're a clever man as well. Come here. Instead of heckling, come here. Come.
I'm not heckling. I'm asking you a question. You
yeah.
don't believe in
Come.
You don't believe
If you
in
need
Moses.
his help,
We believe in Moses. What do you believe in Moses?
You don't believe in Moses.
we do believe in Moses.
You
yes.
don't believe in the Moses of the
Okay.
Bible.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Telling me for what I believe. You're very intelligent. You're very. You're not strawmanning me at all. Okay.
Before we get sidetracked,
Let's-
before we go on to this sidetrack,
No,
can I just
Josh.
read the verse?
No. But before you do so, let me just.
Because
I was just in the middle of saying something. Of course, you can read the verse. Let me just say one point, and then you can say your point. Because remember, I'm being heckled by somebody. Yeah.
Sure.
Now, what I want to say to you is this. Now, you know, and I know that the Old Testament. I'm not going to look at the New Testament for a second, because that's another kettle of fish altogether. Yeah. The Old Testament, when they decide what to put in and what to take out, how do they decide? They look at the Septuagint. They look at the Masoretic text. They look at the Dead Sea Scrolls. Correct?
Wait, who?
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 Text critics.
Oh, the text critics.
Yeah,
Right.
the people who
The secularists, the text critics.
no, not
Like
just.
Dead Sea Scrolls
Wait, hold on.
In 1940. So how the Old
Hold on.
Tanakh has
Calm
been
down,
established for
calm down,
hundreds of
please.
years.
Calm down.
Are you Jew?
When in this particular version of your Bible, yeah, the JPS that you've mentioned,
Yes.
So you're a Jew.
have you looked at how they've decided to put in and take out
You're a
verses?
Christian.
They haven't decided to put in or take out
No.
verses.
Have you looked at what Josh?
Yes.
Have you looked at what manuscripts they have decided to use when they are deciding this is what the Bible says, and which they have decided to leave out?
Been changed.
Have you looked at that?
Well, you need to do
The
something more
JPS
about
is using the scrolls that we have always used.
Which ones?
Our Torah scrolls.
Which ones?
They don't have names. They're
Yes,
just
they
Torah
do have.
scrolls. We have a
Listen.
scroll in every synagogue.
Listen,
In the
you're
world, we
not.
have
You're,
the scrolls.
no, listen. Now that shows your ignorance on the topic. Of all due respect, not just scrolls. They have names, and when they're deciding what to put in and take out of these Bibles, they choose scripts. For example, Septuagint is a Greek document.
Yes, I know.
Okay,
The LXX.
and that's actually one of the most high-level documents.
Not amongst us.
Pardon?
Greek
Not amongst
translation of
us.
the
No, for the Old Testament. Yeah, for the Greek translation of the Old Testament. Yeah, but so
That's
what
something
that must, yeah, it's Christian. It's true.
We don't believe that as an authority.
No problem. But that is another layer of problem, because why would you use a Greek? It's a Greek manuscript that they
why
then
we
have
don't
to
use it.
listen. They then have to translate it. Okay.
Exactly, we don't use it.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. It's not you don't use it. That's not the case with all the Old Testament scholars in the world. Yeah, the Hebrews, even Jewish ones. You can't say that all Jewish.
All Orthodox Jews.
Are you sure you want to say all?
Absolutely.
Okay, fine.
Without a doubt.
Okay, no problem. So what do they use? Do they use the Masoretic text?
Do you know
Give me the names of the text.
Okay, the Masoretic text is just the name of what we call the Hebrew with the vowels and the punctuation. That's all it means.
No.
The difference between a Masoretic text and a regular Hebrew text is that one has vowels and the Tami Hamikra and the other doesn't. That's the only difference.
Let me ask you a question. The Dead Sea Scrolls
Yes.
that were discovered in
In Qumran.
in Nag Hammadi,
Yeah.
you know.
Ein Heber.
Now,
Nachal Heber.
can you establish to me
Yes.
that in all cases that the Masoretic text is superior to the Dead Sea Scrolls in every single instantiation or every single thing that it says?
That's not what I need to prove. Instead, what I need to prove is that we have a textus receptus, and if we want to say that it has not been preserved very well, or right, then we would see what we would be looking for in a text like the Dead Sea Scrolls is a text that generally accords to the theological implications of our text, but has like little differences here and there.
What text are you talking about?
He's saying
any theoretical text, be it
give me a name.
Be it the Dead Sea Scrolls, be it the
what's the position?
Be it the Samaritan Pentateuch,
Yeah.
be it any of these types of things.
No, but what I'm saying is, do you reject the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Yes.
Wholeheartedly, fully.
Yes. And I'm
So
explaining
what
why.
do you accept?
I'm explaining why.
Yeah.
I'm explaining why.
Yeah.
If we are looking for an idea that our textus receptus has not been preserved very well, forgetting about the claim of corruption, because that's a different claim. If we talk about the claim of it just wasn't preserved very well and mistakes have happened, right, and small changes have been made over time because of lack of care, right, then what we would be looking for in scrolls like the Dead Sea Scrolls or the Samaritan Pentateuch is not differences theologically or differences in terms of the orthopraxy or the orthodoxy, right, either way, right. We'd be looking for the types of things that come from poor preservation, not totally different ideas, but little mistakes here and there, or not even mistakes, little differences, right? Little differences in the narrative, little differences in that kind of thing. We don't actually find that. Instead, we find in the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Samaritan Pentateuch are differences in theology and differences in orthopraxy. We don't find differences in the details of stories.
So you are saying there are differences, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying is the differences are theological ones that we would expect from those particular
No, but
scrolls.
this is problematic.
We would not.
Pardon?
No, the Masoretic text.
Yeah.
If you go to any synagogue in the world, right? If you go to any synagogue in the world, yes,
even in the Reform ones,
even the Reform ones have this.
Okay, all right.
Any synagogue in the world,
Yeah.
and you see that they all have Torah scrolls, right? Now, a Torah scroll has the 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch, and you'll see that it's just consonants, right? Like in the Arabic Quran, right? There's right. At least before they put in the diacritics and stuff, there were no dots and dashes, right? And so we don't have any of the vowels, none of the Tami Hamikra, which is kind of like a punctuation, a dual function, punctuation and cantillation. And what you'll find is that that is a Hebrew text which is not the same as the Masoretic text. What's the difference, right? That text is the Hebrew text without vowels. The Masoretic text is what I have here. It's where you put the vowels in. That's the only difference.
No, but here's the point.
What Ben Asher did when he made the Masoretic text was the first time you had a Torah where you could have the vowels
and
in it.
When did Ben Asher come into? When was he?
So he was in the 10th century.
Right, that's the point.
Or the 9th century or something.
No, my question.
He put the vowels in.
Josh, have I let you speak?
Yes.
Now, from my understanding, and you can please correct me if I'm wrong. You've got, in terms of your documents, you've just said you basically just said you take the Masoretic text, yeah?
Yes.
All right, no problem. I was asking you to mention that name. You didn't want to mention it for some reason. Okay, that's one. Number two, you've got other documents. For example, the Haggadah, and you've also got the Halacha, or things from the Talmud, basically the Palestinian Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, all that stuff is very, very late. What connects that text, the Masoretic text, the scrolls that you're talking about in the synagogue, with Moses? Where's your chain of narration?
So the chain is as follows. Before I get to the chain, I need to say a preamble to the chain, because we have a set of rules as to how to write a Torah scroll, right? A set of rules, and it's very, very intricate, and there's a specific way that you're supposed to write it, and it has to be written.
And they were put by Ben Asher.
No, the rules were from long before that.
By whom? Right? Who established those rules?
Okay. So the earliest documentation, which does not mean that this is when they were established.
Yes.
The earliest documentation of the rules is found in the Tanaic period, right?
So what we're talking here?
So we're talking either the first, it's somewhere in the first 2 centuries BCE or in the first 2 centuries CE.
No, wait, hold on.
Around that time.
You're saying first 2 centuries BCE.
Yes.
So,
Right,
but wait, hold on. You're saying first 2 centuries BCE.
Yes.
What's the manuscript evidence of that?
So if you have a look in, for example, the Tosefta, right, which is actually a little bit after CE, right? Which is a little bit after CE.
And how much of it is? Yeah, go on.
So you'll find there very intricate rules with regards to writing of Sifrei Torah. I'm pretty sure there are others from BCE, but I can't remember them off the top of my head.
When was Moses about?
I'm coming to it. Please.
No, I'm letting you speak.
You're asking me a very intricate question, a very complex question.
Bro,
and
Josh, you're the one.
More than a minute to answer.
Josh, listen, I'm not interrogating you. I'm giving you you're speaking more than I am.
Because you're asking the questions.
Yeah. Okay, let me finish.
When you ask a question, you should expect a detailed answer.
No, but before you get into something deep, I'm asking you, when was Moses?
Moses went on Sinai 3,334 years ago.
So put that in BCE terms.
But that's really just
making me do maths now.
1400.
Something like that. I'm sure you've done the maths.
That's 1,000.
Let's just say
something like that.
Right, no problem.
As I say, 3,334
how do you establish the gap in terms of your manuscripts in first, second century BCE to Moses in 1,400 BCE?
So this is what I'm coming to now.
Yes, please.
So once we've said that around that time we already know that the rules for how to write the text, which if even one letter is different, then you have to throw the scroll out.
So you're talking about 1,400 years after Moses?
Yes. So we know that those rules were documented at that point. So the question then is, when were the rules established? Now, according to us, we will hold that those rules are part of an oral tradition that we will say goes back to Moses. And now you'll ask for a chain of narration.
Please.
For this oral tradition.
Please.
So the oral tradition, we believe, was passed from Moses to his student Joshua and the 70 elders.
Okay.
Joshua then passed it down to Eleazar and to Othniel, the son of Kenaz.
Okay.
Othniel, the son of Kenaz, passed it down to his successor, who was Ehud, the son of Gera.
Okay.
He then passed it down to his successor, who was Shamgar, the son of Anath, who passed it down to Barak, the son of Avinoam, who lived at the time of Deborah, the prophetess.
Okay.
Then Barak
so what
passed
we're talking about 300 years?
In terms of the number of years.
Yeah, but now you've gone about you've got 1,400 years to make up.
I know. I'm going through all the names.
Wait, hold on. Giving me names without giving me evidence of these people's existences, or some kind of these people lived in this area, these people had this occupation, is useless. All you're doing now is, for all we know, you could be fabricating these names. What you're trying to do, and Josh, I'll be honest with you, right? It's a contrived and I'm not going to use a strong term, but it's a contrived attempt to try and emulate the Islamic sciences, where there's no chance you can. Let me tell you why. We don't just mention names. When we say the Prophet sent it down to this person, that person, we know that these people existed. We know where they existed. We know what geography they existed in. We know what kind of life they had. We know the biographies that they had. And we have historical information about them. Now, every single name that you've mentioned is exactly that. Are just names.
Fine,
now,
so I'll give you information about them.
No. We don't have the time to sit here and go for 1,000. You're talking about 1,400 year gap of names between Moses and when you're saying the rules were established. And let me just be straightforward with you, yeah. And to be honest, I've read works from prominent scholars of Judaism like Jacob Neusner. Okay, you don't know him?
I've heard of him.
Well, he's actually one of the most published men on earth. He's got a record. He's published like 1,000 books. Yeah. You should know him. You should know him. No, he's a big name. He is a big name. Yeah. And what you are doing here is it's a slapdash academic attempt to try and fill up a hole which cannot be filled. It cannot be filled, and it has not been. No scholar in academia takes this seriously.
Of course not, because the academics do not believe in the Bible at all.
No,
they don't believe in the Quran either. They just haven't got to that yet.
No. The conversations must be different. The reason why the conversations must be different is this. When we're talking about our manuscripts, we're talking about what, 30 years after Uthman? When we're talking about the people in our chains, we're talking about what? We're talking about people who we've got not only manuscript evidence for, but we have cross-referential data about. You simply don't have that data. You're not giving us any confidence that the 1,400-year gap that you've just described here can in any way, shape or form be filled up with anything other than blind faith and listening to your elders. That's the truth, Joshua. Now, if a person from another religion, a Hindu, did the same thing with you and gave you names of figures that might be fictitious, might not have even existed, there's no manuscript evidence of their existence, there's no cross-referencing where they lived, there's nothing, then you would not accept it and you'd say this is not good enough evidence.
No, because that's not what I would be looking for. What I look for when it comes to a religion, whether or not they're based on any truth, is the revelation narrative, right? If you're making a claim about the way revelation took place to start with, and all you've got is one guy spoke to a talking fish, right? That's all you've got. Or you have one guy who claims to be God, or one guy who claims an angel spoke to him.
Right. So that's where we go back to our point.
But we have
Josh.
We have an entire nation of people claiming a mass national revelation in a mountain.
Excellent, Josh. I don't listen. We accept that, okay? We believe in that, and we're not saying everything you hold in your hand is wrong or fabricated or ahistorical. We're saying that if you want us to believe every vowel, every letter, every story, and with this many conflicting manuscripts, with this much gap that you have, it's unreasonable for us to believe in that. But what I will say is this. This is why you should not be totally confident in the book that you hold in your hand. And I will say this. We said that because we went on a tangent here, Josh. We said that there are 3 conditions that disqualify a prophet. And you just said it yourself now. One of them is, what kind of prophet are we talking about? And what kind of God is he calling to? We can't deny that the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran both talk specifically about Moses. Talk specifically about him receiving the revelation. Talk specifically about the God of Moses. Literally the God of Moses. Okay, and that is the God we believe in. Now what we're saying is, already, number 1, we're not asking you to be disloyal to God. Number 2, we're not asking you to believe in another God. And number 3 here, the third point, which was talked about in Deuteronomy 18:21, is that the prophecies that this prophet came with are in fact had materialized. So I'll give you 5 examples, Josh, because I was meant to be doing this in the beginning.
Sure.
Okay? For example, in the Quran it states that the Romans had been defeated in a nearby lowland, and that in 3 to 9 years that they will become victorious. Okay? Now this materialized. It's very specific, and it materialized. The Quran states that the Muslims will be victorious and that they will enter Mecca محلقين رؤوسهم مقصرين لا يخافون أو لا تخافون عليهم ما لا تعلمون. That they will go in and they will be cutting their hair and they will be shaving it and they will have no fear, meaning there will be no fighting. So the Quran predicts that the Muslims will be victorious against the pagans and that they will not be fighting, and that's exactly what happened. It was a conquest which meant that the Muslims could freely go and do Hajj, which happened, Umrah or Hajj or whatever, pilgrimage. Number 2. Number 3, and this relates to the Palestine issue. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "أعدد ستا بين يدي الساعة موتي ثم فتح بيت المقدس." He said, count 6 things before the day of judgment: my death and then the conquest of Jerusalem. And we know historically, without a shadow of a doubt, that Islam conquered Jerusalem.
Of course.
Of course. So these are things, I'm giving you some examples, but Islam, the fact that the Prophet, he predicted where Islam was going to go. He did so in a situation of weakness. One time he was being attacked by all places. إِذْ جَاءُكُم مِّن فَوْقِكُم مِّنْ أَسْفَلَ مِنْكُمْ. You know, when they came from above and below, from the city and all this kind of place, and that your visions were blurred. وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبُ الْحَنَاجِرُ وَتَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ الظُّنُونَ. And that, you know, the hearts went. At that time, Okay, the Prophet made a prediction. There was a rock, he knocked it one time. He said 40 harum, that the Roman Empire has been conquered. And then again 40 Faris, that the Persian Empire has been conquered. And then he said 40 Yemen. And then after that he said Yemen will be conquered. Imagine in a state of bleak weakness, a situation where it's totally bleak and total weakness, where he was so hungry, the Prophet, that he had to tie a rock to his stomach, and that they were fighting him from everywhere, that he predicted that he would take over the major empires of the world. So amazing was this, that even historians like Barnaby Rogerson, he said the fact that the Arabs had conquered the Roman and Persian Empire, it's like Eskimos conquering America and Russia. It's something which is miraculous by all standards. So these are some examples of things that the Prophet told us, even things which relate to today, that there will be the Arab, the barefooted Arab, yatatawaluna fil bunyan, that they will be competing for the high buildings. These are things which the Bible tells us. Imagine if you make all of these predictions and you get them wrong. That when the Prophet made predictions of the future, he made predictions which astonishingly, even though the probability of them coming true were very low, did come true. Where Islam would spread, where Islam would go, even where the fighting would happen, what would happen in the future. You know, the greening of the Arabian Peninsula, that the Arabian Peninsula will become green after it has become barren. Even things relating to climate change and the ecological environment. This is too much. Even sexually transmitted diseases, bro. Can you imagine there's a hadith that says that fornication will become so widespread that there will be diseases لم تكن موجودة من قبل, that it was not even there. The invention of new sexually transmitted diseases, not just the proliferation of sexually transmitted diseases. These things are specific to the Quran and the Sunnah. These are prophecies of the future, and they, would you agree with me, yeah, they put the Prophet, at least from your perspective, a biblical perspective, yeah, in serious contention for prophethood. Would you agree with that?
In serious contention, from a biblical perspective, I would have to concede yes.
Exactly. Now remember, if this is the case, because he came telling us to believe in the God of Moses. He didn't tell us to be disloyal to God. In fact, the fact is, the cardinal sin in Islam is that if you worship anything other than God. We're saying that the purpose of life is to worship one God only. That's the purpose of life. But the thing is this, we say that Prophet also came with something. The Quran states, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا كَافَةً لِلنَّاسِ. We have not sent you except for all of humanity. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you except for a mercy of humankind. So the fact is, we believe that there was a transition after Moses, and the transition meant for a prophet this time who would come and who would be for all of humanity. Now you've conceded that he is, at least according to your biblical criterion, okay, that he would have to be in serious contention.
Yes.
What now, my question is, what must be done in order for you to go above that bridge, or across that bridge I should say, yeah? And for you to say, no, not only is he a serious contender, but in fact he is the true prophet. What must be met?
Well, according to Jewish tradition,
okay,
he would have to be accepted by the Sanhedrin. Right? Every single... No, that's not true. Every single prophet that we accepted as a true prophet was accepted so by the court. Now the court was disbanded a long time before Muhammad even came to the scene, before he was ever born. And they had already declared many, many years earlier, with the death of the prophet Ezra, that prophecy had left the world entirely. There was no more prophecy. We had sunk to a spiritual low in the world where there was no more prophecy. That's according to our tradition, that we would therefore not be able to accept anyone who came as claiming to be a prophet after that. That's really a technicality in terms of chronology. But besides that, we still have not really got around the issue of disloyalty, based on the point that I made earlier. I still have not quoted the verse. It's in Exodus
but
chapter
can I just
31.
You can quote it. I will let you quote it, but you've made a point, so it has to be answered, right? What gives the authority to the court? Does revelation give authority to the court, or does the court give authority to revelation?
Revelation gives authority to the court,
Great.
as it says in Deuteronomy.
Great, and this is the problem. The Quran actually calls some Jewish people out on this. It says اتخذوا أحبارهم اتخذوا رهبانهم وأحبارهم أربابا من دون الله. Yeah, والمسيح ابن مريم. They take their priests and their rabbis as lords beside God, and they also take Jesus, son of Mary. Someone came to the not you. Christians and Jews.
Oh, the Christians and the Jews.
Yes. Now they were.
It's a bit like that.
Well, let me
explain
before you proclaim its nonsense. Have some patience. When the Prophet was asked about this one person, who was named as Adi ibn Hatim, he was a Jew in his previous life. He said exactly what you just said. He said, we don't take, we didn't used to take, our rabbis as God. And then the Prophet, he responded, he said, did they not make permissible what was impermissible? And did they not make impermissible what was permissible? Meaning, there is a band of Jewish people, and you cannot deny this, that they take the rulings of the court that you're talking about, or they take the Talmudic understanding as superior to the revelation. And this, in so much as they are willing to weight it against revelation, or that they are willing to understand revelation only through its lens. Now what I'm saying is this is exactly a type of polytheism. You know why?
Why?
The Quran tells you why. أَمْ شَرَعُوا لَهُم مِّنَ الدِّينِ مَا لَمْ يَأْذَنْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. Have they been given authority of the religion what Allah has not given them authority? The court that you're speaking of has no authority.
Well, in Deuteronomy it gives them authority.
No.
Yes, in Deuteronomy gives them authority. Now you can dispute what...
who are them? Your guys now? Who is them?
So the original court was the 70 elders that was set up by Moses, right? The court system was expanded by Jethro, and this court system, we believe, and we do have some evidence, right?
Yes.
Maybe not to the extent of your hadith thing, of this being something which continued all the way in terms of the court system, all the way till the end of the Gaonic period, right?
Which is when we're talking about.
That's already the 9th or the 10th century.
So what's the biblical evidence for the court?
The biblical evidence for the court having authority is in Deuteronomy chapter 19.
It's about the Sanhedrin court.
Yeah, the Sanhedrin. It developed into the Sanhedrin.
Say again?
It became known as the Sanhedrin.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Yeah.
And get this up. A second.
Didn't God also condemn the judges in Psalm 82?
1 second.
But yeah, while you're discussing that.
Yeah, get us that as well, because that's a nice question.
Well, I've got the verse written down.
By the way, I appreciate your
Patience.
discussion. I learned from this guy. He's got some good stuff to say.
Can you read that?
All right, you should let him go for his thing first, and then we'll. Like the session, man. You got them ready, eh? You got them ready, don't you?
Yeah, I'm still learning about
Yeah,
it.
excellent, man.
I didn't expect you yet.
Yeah, man. No, it's
Enjoyed
good.
your discussion with Bart. It's quite good.
It was all right, innit?
Should have more of those.
Well, this guy's got his documents. Are you going to court or something?
Well, I'm studying
He's got his
law.
black coat as well.
No, I appreciate this.
Yeah, he does his homework. That's important.
Not only that, no, he's just giving me his evidences. Yeah, please.
Okay, so in Deuteronomy chapter 17, I'll read you what it says there. If there arise a matter too hard for you in judgment, between blood and blood, between law and law, between stroke and stroke, even matters of controversy within your gates, Then shall you arise and go up to the place which Hashem your God shall choose. And you shall come to the priests, the Levites, and the judge that shall be in those days, and you shall inquire, and they shall declare to you the sentence of judgment, and you shall do according to the sentence that they shall declare to you from the place that Hashem shall choose, and you shall observe to do according to all that they shall teach you, according to the Torah that they shall teach you, right? According to the Torah that they shall teach you, and according to the judgments that they shall tell you, you shall do. You shall not turn aside from the sentence that they shall declare to you to the right hand or the left hand. And the man that does presumptuously in not listening to the priest that stands to minister there before Hashem your God, or unto the judge, even that man shall die, and you shall exterminate the evil from Israel.
Now, where does it say that these judges can decide who is a prophet and who's not a prophet?
So this is a matter which is hard in judgment. This is a matter which is hard in judgment.
Why is, sorry, you have to know, this is very tenuous, I have to say. I'm disappointed by this, because all this shows us, all this, it's a tenuous link, because all it shows us is that there are judges that can be appointed for jurisprudential matters, and that they must use the Torah as a guidance or as the guide for that. That's all this shows.
This does not only show that.
What else does it show?
Only in civil matters. It says it starts off, if there arise a matter too hard for you in judgment, and then it gives various examples between blood and blood, between law and law, between stroke and stroke. Now, one of the many laws found in the Torah is the laws regarding to how to distinguish between a true and a false prophet.
No,
this is a matter which is hard in judgment.
When it says law and law, what do you think this is referring to?
In the Hebrew, it's bein din ledin.
Right? Yeah, bein din ledin.
Yeah, you have a similar word din in Arabic, right? So din means law, right? Even today, if I have a question of whether or not I'm supposed to do something or I'm not allowed to do something, I'll ask a rabbi, and what will I ask him for? I'll ask him for the din. What's the din in this particular?
What does that mean?
Right? What's the law in this particular matter?
Right. No, you're just affirming what I've just said to you. They are not allowed to invent anything from themselves, correct?
They don't invent it.
Right, so they
tell you what it is.
They interpret the Torah to tell you, so what their job is not to establish who is a true prophet, who is not. That's not their job. Their job is simply very limited, to jurisprudence. That is what their job is.
Civil and criminal court.
Yeah, that's what they are.
Not just civil and criminal.
Well, it doesn't say anything about religion, does it?
Where does it say that if a prophet is to present himself, he must present himself to the judges, and they must
say that.
So you've made that up.
No, I've not made that up.
That is made up.
That was the question he was asking.
Yeah, I was telling you, bro. Josh, please. If the Bible is speaking on the three cases that we've spoken about in Deuteronomy 18 and the other two verses that you mentioned, how to distinguish between a true prophet and a false prophet. You said he can't be disloyal. He's got a call to the right God. And if he calls of an oracle that hasn't come to pass,
how do we know what's disloyalty?
Wait, those verses, are they generic or are they specific?
Yeah, specific.
No, what I mean is this: who is God speaking to? Is he speaking to the judges or is he speaking to me and you?
Speaking to all of us.
Excellent. Right, hold on. That's it. It's done now. Because if you're saying God is speaking to all of us, then no longer is this a matter which is specific to the judges. Therefore, to give the judges the ultimate authority in being able to distinguish between who's a true prophet and a false prophet goes against the generic wording or the wording of the Bible, which seems to indicate that anybody can do this as a matter of religion. The judges have no authority.
The implication of somebody being a false prophet, what is that implication? According to Deuteronomy 13 and 18, he has to be put to death. That is a very severe punishment, something which is very much in the scope of a judge. If somebody brings somebody to
but that's
court,
fine.
This person is claiming to be a prophet.
But Josh,
is he true or false?
Josh,
if he's false, then he's going to be dead.
Josh, what we've said is you've said it yourself. That all of the conditions that you've said have to be in place does not disqualify the Prophet Muhammad and puts him into serious contention for prophethood. So that
I said that what puts him into contention is the fact that he said things that came true.
Yes.
We have still not got past the disloyalty thing because we still haven't read.
No, I understand, but the fact that you're even having this discussion with me and you're not deferring it to a judge indicates that you think and you know that it's not for just the judges, it's for all of us.
It's It's not just
because because then you would be talking out of turn. If you believe, if you believed that the matter was for judges to decide, and you're here talking to me about whether or not the law is applicable, or that the criterion has been met or not been met, and you've had these conversations before and you keep coming to Speaker's Corner, then unless you're a judge, you're speaking out of turn.
No, that's not the case.
Of course it's the case.
Because I'm not issuing any judgment here. I'm not issuing any anything which has legal implications.
It's not a matter of judgment, right?
It is, though. It's a matter of legal implications.
It has no.
There's a very clear legal implication if somebody's a true or false prophet.
Can a judge get things wrong?
Judges can get things wrong.
Good. So if a judge decides,
but God has made this system.
No, but if the judge decides, and this is where maybe your verses come in handy, because the judges have also been attacked in the Bible. Yeah. If the judges, yeah, right. So if the judges get things wrong and you follow them, what happens?
And you follow them, then if they've got it wrong and you follow them, then you've got nothing. Then God has nothing against you.
No. In matters to do with revelation.
Yes.
So hold on. Let me be clear.
Yes.
If a judge says to you that we should do a practice which is a pagan practice, and they've got it wrong, and you follow them in this, they tell you to worship another god.
Well, there's actually laws about that in Leviticus.
No, but
it talks about that specifically.
And what's the answer?
The answer is that an offering has to be brought when it's realised that a mistake has been made.
No. If the judge
if the judge made a mistake.
If the judge tells you to do something which goes against the first commandment, the second commandment.
Yes.
Okay, so is that conceivable?
It's conceivable that something
Excellent.
could happen.
So if that's conceivable, if the judge gets it wrong and you follow him on something which will render you a polytheist, do you get punished for that, for being a polytheist?
There is a degree of punishment. I'm being told I'm supposed to be...
No, but this is important. Don't leave now, because the Quran makes this... I agree with you. Listen. Josh, listen.
Yes.
We agree on one point. On matters to do with law, if you follow the judge, you're alleviated from the punishment. We also believe that. Because there's a very similar verse in the Quran. Listen, where you just said that, in matters of controversy, there's a very similar verse. It goes like this. وَإِذَا جَاءُكُم بِأَمْرٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْنِ أَوْ الْخَوْفِ أَذَاعُوا بِهِ. Listen. وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ. That if they come with you with a controversial matter or a matter of fear and safety, they should they will announce it. But had they returned it to the Prophet and to the people who know how to extrapolate among them, then they would have known how to extrapolate it. And that's why the Quran says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. When you go and follow a jurisprudential ruling of a judge, you're alleviated, I agree. But not in matters which relate to ultimate salvation. Not in matters of polytheism. Not in matters of this is a prophet or not. And what's the evidence of that? The evidence of that is that if a judge, as we've said, calls you to polytheism, calls you to worship Jesus, if a judge, a Jewish judge says, worship Jesus Christ, and you worship him, you will now be sinful completely, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. That's why I say, if a judge says, don't follow a prophet which has a revelation, which his authority is higher than the judge, then the same thing should apply. And one more thing, Josh, one more thing.
Yes.
The Quran actually mentions this. It says, يوم يتبرأ الذين اتبعوا من الذين اتبعوا ورأوا العذاب وتقطع بهم الأسباب. That the day where the people who have been following, the followers, the blind followers, the sheep, they will disassociate, or the followed will be they will disassociate from the followers, and then the punishment will be shown. It's in these matters. So I say to you, be careful. And this goes back to اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم. They took their priests and rabbis as gods besides God because they've made permissible what's not permissible. That if you make your faith about following judges on issues to do with salvific potential, then what you're doing is no better, than what polytheists do. There must be an aspect of you being able to distinguish by yourself, like you have, and you said this more than once. The Prophet is a contender, at least based on the criterion of the Bible. You said it. That you must be able to make that decision independently. You have to, and this is what the Quran says this. But Josh, listen, I don't want to be preaching to you, but the Quran says this. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبَعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. When they said to them, follow what God has set down, قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبَعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاؤُنَا. They say, no, we're just going to follow what our predecessors came with. وَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ شَيْءًا وَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. Even if their predecessors...
You need to go.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is you must extract yourself from the idea that if it's the judges that make a decision about your life.
Mohammed,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
we need to wrap up.
Right, go ahead.
So we need to go. So
Sorry,
can we continue this conversation next week?
Of course.
I'd very much like to continue. If you can set a time, we'll continue next week on Sunday. If you want to meet me at 3:30 or
Well, Aaron's got my number. We'll get in contact and stuff. You've got Aaron's number, yeah?
I have Yoel's number. I have Ali Dawah's number as well.
All right, so we'll sort it. Yeah.
Right, cool.
We'll sort it. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, take care. Yeah. Think about what I've said. Think about what I said as well, my friend. Yeah. See you later. What?
Yeah, well.
What's happening? Huh?
All right, Josh. See you
next week.
Next time, inshallah.
All right.
Do you want to wrap up? You okay? Do you want to summarize or you okay?
No, I'm all right. There's a lot of cameras here. That was a very interesting discussion.
It was.
And
They still stick to the Masoretic text, which is the 10th century, isn't it?
Yeah, tell us more.
Well, I mean, I think it would be best if Josh was here, otherwise he'll tell me. He's just speaking when he's gone.
Yeah, I agree.
He said he'll come back next Sunday.
Let's talk when he's here,
Yeah.
so it doesn't seem like we're doing anything underhandedly.
Exactly.
And hopefully you guys have benefited from it. I know it was a long one, but you will learn a lot from these kind of ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah? All right, come and take these microphones.
Jazakallah
Come
khair.
and take them.
Let me take the wise one.
Take them.